Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Walking Between the Raindrops. And in that you find yourself in many ways when you go in between those raindrops and what life is all about and where you want to go with life. And sometimes you need a little bit of help with that. And with that comes hypnotherapy and so much more. And she's a master alchemist. She is Debbie Unterman, and she joins us again. Hi, Debbie. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. I'm very refreshed. Just got back from a trip to Florida, so I'm feeling good.
I think you got back just in time. Isn't there another hurricane hitting that area?
Well, that is what the Walking Between the Raindrops is all about. That is my life, and that is what I like to teach people, how to get into that flow. And literally, that happens to me all the time, including today when I just went out shopping. Windshield wiper flaps. I get home, it stops. I get my groceries in. The rain starts again. That's my life. That's the way I like it.
You ever do this? You ever go into a parking lot, crowded village, city, whatever it might be, and just throw out to the universe like, I'd like to have a spot. Can I? I'm going to find a spot. I'm going to find it, and it's going to be right over there. I'm going to make that car turn right there, and I'm going to find the spot I need. And more times than not, I throw it out there. I get that spot. It just works. I don't know how it works, but
I know
putting it out there.
My family for a while used to call it pulling a Debbie.
Pulling it. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Wow.
They saw it happen so many times.
So you're a certified hypnotherapist, correct?
Totally. Clinical hypnotherapist. I've been doing it for 40 years. That's why I changed the name to Master Alchemist, because it's alchemical hypnotherapy and it's very different. There's, I'll say millions. There are probably millions of hypnotherapists out there, but there's only 2 or 3 master alchemists in the world.
Wow. I wasn't aware of that. Oh,
yes.
I feel pretty popular today. I've got a master alchemist joining us on the program, and we're gonna pick up, and I really mean that, by the way. We're gonna pick up where we left off the last couple of times we got together, and it's 10 ways to realize that everything is perfect.
Yep. And that's getting into the flow, like I like to call walking between the raindrops. Because what's better? That's what I keep trying to explain, that stuff's going to happen. We've talked about that. But once you get into that place of synchronicity, seeing those master numbers, just having all those, you think of someone and the phone rings, you're in the flow. Those lights turn green instead of red, things like that. And life becomes more fun.
So let's run them down just to recap. Why don't we hit them real quick? Because we're going to get to number 6 today, and maybe even number 7. You never know.
Hey, and we also have a guest today that we're going to get to. I don't want to leave her hanging for too long. So let's do this.
What was number 1?
Number 1 was to go within. It is the most important one, is that we stay so cerebral, so much in our head, that it's really important for us to get out of that place and into that peace, that place inside where that monkey mind slows down and things start bubbling up. And a lot of people like to go work out, run, push it down, drink, smoke, do something to not have to get into the stuff that starts coming up. But I'm saying, no, you have to. Like, we do a spring cleaning, right? We clean out our closets, we get rid of old clothes. We have to do the same thing inside. So the going within helps you do that. Then the next one we talked about is to face it. And that has to do with knowing that there are things about you that, a lot of us would rather just kind of forget, push beyond, put on that mask. But sometimes we have to be able to face who we really are, what's really going on in life.
Not easy.
A lot of people don't want to, right? But you and I do. We've talked about that. We're willing. Once you've done that, you want to be able to feel your real feelings, not throw it all out there and project all that stuff onto other people, but realize what is yours. And some of those feelings are not really pleasant, but it's important to feel them anyway. I was just, I think I was listening to one of your podcasts. As a matter of fact, it might have been. And I'm like, who did I hear say this about crying, about the need to cry? It might have been something else, but I listened to so
No, I
many of your
believe we,
podcasts that.
I think I talked about that, even coming from a guy, that it's okay to cry because you need to purge, you need to get that emotion out. And if you're not feeling everything from happiness to sadness to crying, all of it, you're not living. You're just
Right.
kind of in a, vacuum, a bubble, a protected space. It's not living.
Right. And I think there's science about it now too. I think they have come to the point where they're saying, oops, we were wrong in the 60s, 70s, 80s, all this macho man thing about being the big strong man. No, it is really important to feel feelings, and everyone needs to cry and forget about all that. You're a baby. You're too sensitive. I hate that line. Ooh, how many of you out there hate to be called sensitive? Like, what's wrong with being sensitive?
I don't know about you, but I embrace it. I tell every girl I meet, I'm a sensitive guy. I'm telling you right now.
Hey,
There's
I
nothing
hope they
wrong with
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
I hope
you know what? It's because I'm being honest and I'm in tune with feelings and other people's feelings. I try to be. It's because it's important. It's life.
it is. It is. So we need to feel all our feelings.
Sure.
And then we get to that part about forgiving ourselves for being powerless, weak, stupid, gullible, lonely, imperfect. And also forgiving yourself for when you do, break something, or, you really were the cause of something. Now, there's sometimes more. We need to maybe apologize and atone for those things too. But we also can't just live with it forever and blame ourselves. How many people have survivor's guilt?
Mm, for sure.
How many people come back from war and the PTSD is all about the fact that they're still here and their buddy's not? There's a reason you're still here. Karma is real. We all have different amounts that we're meant to do on earth. So the last one is to empower yourself, to feel the power of being here and not having to kind of apologize all the time for, people who are always saying, oh, I'm sorry I said that, I'm sorry I did that. No, be right out there, feel
Yeah.
your power, be a powerful person. It's okay. But in order to get through all these steps, you have to climb through them and do them all. Otherwise, you're a bully.
You know what? I get a visual, Debbie, of a horse in a ring. And you ever see the barriers? They jump over it. They jump over another one.
Yes.
It's almost like these 10 steps. You need to go through all of these, over all of them, to realize that everything is perfect. But if things are out of balance, like you said, use your power, which was number 5 on our list. So many of us are afraid to bring it. Like we're afraid that, I'm going to be perceived to be like I have an ego or I'm kind of cocky about something. No, you're you. Embrace it. You're unique. Nobody else is like you. So bring that on. It's okay.
Yep. And the people that don't like it are probably the people that haven't gone through all their stuff and they're
Yeah.
projecting on you that you think you're something.
Yep, absolutely. And you're not. They're making you
No,
feel
you're
guilty.
you.
Don't allow it to happen. So we're up to number 6. Should we bring in our guest before we?
Yes, let's
Number 6.
go ahead and bring her in because she's been through my classes and sessions and
Right.
so she knows all this. Let's bring her in.
And she's somebody who has worked with you quite a bit, right?
She went through a whole, when my class was 100 hours, it is now 200 hours. And I've not been teaching it much since then, but she has gone. This is Sherry Eisenman. She's been through the whole 100-hour training. So she knows all about alchemical hypnotherapy, what I do. She, in order to go through the class, you've got to go through it yourself.
Welcome, Sherry. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now that your class is 200, I probably still qualify just for all the sessions that I've had over the years.
If they would let you do that, yeah. Good luck with that.
I have to talk with the boss. How are y'all?
Yeah.
Doing great here. And
Well.
I didn't know when Debbie had said that we would have a guest here. I thought it was somebody who you've worked with and got hypnotized and went through things, which is the case. I didn't know that you went through the classes and the training as well. Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
Hey, I can also say that when I was writing my book, she was one of my kind of editors, chapter by
Proofreaders.
chapter.
Love it.
Yeah, proofreaders. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. She read it.
You know, it's interesting. I'm gonna jump in and if you don't mind, without prompting, and just tell you what even led me to Debbie in the first place, because in a way it's a kind of fascinating story. I've never been a really spontaneous person in my life. I'm a massage therapist also, and I had a teaching partner who was a friend of Debbie's, and after working with him for a while, he said, you know, I have someone you need to meet. And at the time, I was in really deep psychotherapy. My father was a concentration camp survivor. And except my teaching life, my life seemed to be quite miserable and a lot of suffering. And I really just thought that being born as a child of a concentration camp survivor, that part of my journey was just kind of suffering. And I met Debbie, and she offered me a session, and I had one session, and I've never been back to a psychotherapist.
Wow.
Since then, it changed my life so much that first day. And I've come to find out that I'm this kind of person where when something works for me and I'm really fascinated by it, I have to know everything about it I can. And so I immediately stepped in to get certified in Debbie's work.
Amazing. And it goes right back to what we said. And thank you for sharing your story, Sherry, and being honest about it and transparent. It goes back to what we said even a couple of podcasts ago, that those things that happen in your childhood, and same thing for Sherry, that, you know, she was aware where her father was, what he went through, but it impacted her at such a young age. And then you carry it through your adult years, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, which is a very nice place to be born and to grow up, maybe. And there just were not many people that I felt had anything in common with me as far as how they grew up. And so I didn't really understand the importance of that early childhood learning and the epigenetics of coming from that kind of a family. And I really learned that in my work with Debbie and taking Debbie's class and really diving deeply into this work. Pretty much, you know, took me through, Debbie was reminding me the stages of being a butterfly. You know, from realizing that I was living my life in this chrysalis where I was just pounding on the edges, trying to figure out how to get out, into really blossoming into my true self and really recognizing the different subpersonalities that had been walking me through an existence where I really suffered a lot, you know, a lot, and changed it into an amazing life of self-actualization and discovery. And I'll self-profess that I went in as a very deep skeptic.
Yes.
And I actually told Debbie that if there were 3 words written on my gravestone, if I died that day, they would be skeptic, skeptic, skeptic.
And he was able to hypnotize you, because I always hear if you're a skeptic and you're not open to it, that shows how good Debbie is, I guess.
That once again, it shows that alchemical hypnotherapy is so different.
Yeah, it's not TikTok hypnotherapy at all. You know, I really had to be in control. And that first time I felt in control, and it all just made sense to me step by step, that my skeptic really got a new job and turned into a detective. And I really believe that this work is what made me an amazing massage therapist. I had a career for 34 years before I had an injury, and an amazing doula, because I use a lot of this in my healing work. I don't do alchemical sessions because my master lives in town. And if I ever have a doula client, which is what I'm doing now, I'm a birth doula. Actually, I'm a full spectrum doula, but mostly do births. And anyone who comes in with any kind of trauma that I feel doesn't belong in the birth, I really request that they see Debbie and do that type of self-exploration into the gentlest form of healing I think that I've ever experienced in my life.
So I want to better understand too the connection in your life, Sherry, as a doula and having the skills now as a hypnotherapist and having the insight. How does that help you as a doula?
Well, I used to tell Debbie that I was terrible with metaphors, but it ends up I'm the queen of metaphors. It seems that I use hypnosis a lot in my work as a doula because I'm really good at reframing someone's experience. I really learned that from Debbie, how to take the concept of pain and turn it into self-actualization as something that has a different vocabulary, maybe pressure, maybe just simply your experience in the here and now that won't affect you for the minute past and the minute coming. So being able to release and reframe probably are the best tools that I use in my birth work that I learned from Debbie.
I'm just visualizing what that must be like when you're assisting somebody in having a baby. What a traumatic experience. There's so much going on. You want, God forbid, you're thinking of everything. You're thinking of the future. What if something goes wrong? And all of that's going through your head. And Sherry, with what you offer now through Debbie, you can reset the patient, the client, and get them back to where they need to be to focus on what's going on instead of just, that crazy moment.
Right. Well, I always tell people that the only thing that gets in the way of a good birth is your head.
Yeah.
And so
it gets in the way of everything.
Yeah.
It really does.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Fear does not belong in the birth room. And so we talk about fear and trauma and past trauma way before, if we have an opportunity. I mean, I just got hired for someone who's her baby's estimated due date is in 2 days. And she had a traumatic birth 3 years ago. And so I utilize a lot of my skills to help people reframe what their experience was and how finding some way to take that experience and set it aside for the time being to be able to utilize the tools from it if we need them, but to leave the pain, trauma, expectations over in a little box. It's interesting. My father used to explain why he could talk about concentration camps as he said he had a little box in the back of his head where he kept that experience. And whenever he needed to access the box, he would just open the box. And that way it didn't cause him ongoing trauma all the time, but it was information that could be very helpful. And so I do the same thing with families who are birthing. It's a different baby and a different birth. And so if we can bring in the tools of how do you turn the lead of a previous birth or the lead of the fear of what might happen, instead of let's be in the here and now, is the gold of the self-actualization of the fact that a human being is being born, that a mother's being born, even if she's having her second, her fifth, her 12th child, she's still reborn Another parent, whether it's a partner or a father, is reborn. A nuclear family is reborn. We have more in common with our ancestors and their lives and possibly their past lives, which was such a non-concept to me before I met Debbie. I grew up in a very black and white medical household, and so a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
these,
her
a lot of
her
these.
brother is a doctor.
Yeah, my
That's
brother's a
right.
doctor. My mother was an anatomy professor,
But
and
another
until
thing that you do is you refer a lot of clients to
yeah,
me,
I was going to say
sometimes
that.
before, sometimes after.
Yeah, so if somebody, comes into my practice and they're carrying the trauma, any kind of trauma, it could be from a previous birth, it could be from family trauma, anything like that, I automatically refer to Debbie the same way that I refer to a midwife or to a lactation consultant as an essential part of a birthing team. I believe that Debbie is an essential part of many of my clients' birthing teams. She really is able to assist my clients in taking the experience of their previous births that maybe they don't have satisfaction or understanding of, and helping them find a place for that in their organic cellular memory. And I love that my clients come to me after seeing Debbie. Sometimes it's one and done, sometimes it's three and done, and telling me in their birthing time, oh, I'm so glad I have this tool. Not they don't just wait until after the birth when I talk to them and say, so, let's talk about your birth experience. But in the birth, they'll say, oh, Debbie taught me this. And I love that so much. It's
You're like
just such powerful, amazing work. I really feel that the time that I've known Debbie has allowed me so many opportunities. And of course, when I'm in the muckety muck, she's the first one I call.
You are like the secret birthing weapon, because you're not only just that, you really are. You're not only just a doula, you're armed with all these other skills that you got from Debbie. And we have a couple of minutes left here, and we left off at number 6 on the list of top 10 things to realize that everything's perfect. Can we pick up at number 6?
So, okay, let me say something very quickly. It is about realizing your connection to spirit, God, nature, all that is, whatever you want to call it. And also, our relatives who have passed are also with us. And so I wanted to show this feather. It's big, if you can see how big it is, that I found as I started my trip to Florida. And I know that this was left by my mother. I was driving down with my brother. We stopped at a restaurant, and it was really funny too, because I was driving, I got out, he was standing right by the driver's seat, and I looked down. He was right there. He didn't see it. I did. I said, look at this feather, because I'm always finding them, and I know their mom. And he hadn't seen it. So that is part of the magic and the fun. And there were more times, we went right to the condo she lived at, that she walked the beach, for 10 years before she died of Alzheimer's. And I felt her a lot, but right from the beginning of that trip. I know that's about all I can say today about it. We'll have to continue next time.
I just want to share with you, Debbie, I'm so on your page that the signs are there if you look for them. And my mom, same exact thing. I pray to her, I call on her, and she sends me signs. And Sherry, biggest skeptic right over here, but there's no way to punch a hole in what I experience. And just what you said, and your brother, Debbie, I was going through something very major, had a very important appointment, life-changing potential. Thought about my mom the night before. That morning, just like vibed her big time. I'm driving into the parking lot, and I'm like, I hope this goes good, Mom. I hope it goes well. And look down, and I look at an energy drink I had in the console, and it was my mom's birthday. And that was good enough for me. And my friend said to me, and I'm bringing this up because of what you just said with that feather. My friend said to me, yeah, all right, that's good. And he believes it, 1 in 365 chance. And you're asking for the sign and you got that sign at the moment. But then he said, you know what? What are the chances that you looked and saw that expiration date on that carton of protein drink? And it's the same thing. You could have missed that feather. Your brother did, but you
Yep.
saw it.
Yep.
So that just reinforces the fact that if you're open to signs and signals, you're going to see them. And I believe they're legit. I really do.
Okay, so I have a confession. I was walking and I recently lost my husband.
Sorry.
And I was really just walking, and I had decided not to rake the leaves, which he would usually rake the first kind of set of leaves. This time of year, we have lots of trees on the property, and I decided to just kind of blow everything to one side of the yard. And so I decided to just walk through them, kind of like a kid would, just kicking up leaves. And I had been blowing them for a couple of days. And so I had some nice piles of leaves. And I was in my sandals. And I was kicking up the leaves and kicking up the leaves. And I felt something with my toe. And so I went rummaging through the leaves. And I found this rose
No way.
quartz heart.
Wow. What was that doing in your yard? Which is
Just-
about an acre.
Just there.
Wow. All right.
You
Well,
know,
look at the
and I mean,
magic.
nothing is just there, for me.
Yeah, now I have to jump in here because this is a mind blow. You ready for this? What you just said? That's a rose quartz, right?
Yeah.
Heart-shaped.
A heart-shaped rose quartz.
You ready?
Which is my healing stone.
Are you ready?
Ready.
My
Go, Steve.
mom's name is Rose.
Ah.
And there you go. Thanks, Mom. You can't make that up.
Ah.
And that's my
Yeah.
the rose quartz is my new thing now. I have one
Wow.
hanging from my rear view mirror in my car.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
And it's amazing that you found it because literally needle in a haystack. Needle in a haystack. You're not going to.
It really, I'm talking piles
Oh,
of leaves. And so,
On an
But
acre of land.
yeah, I'm not surprised because I'm not a person who believes in coincidences. I believe in the fact of matter, not the matter of fact.
Yep, agreed.
And yeah, I'll say that a lot of that, I'm going to bring back to Debbie, having been not a spiritual leader for me, but a good wake up call in my life. I'll never forget the day that I realized that anger had a meaning and a purpose and a voice of its own. And I've brought that into my healing work for years and into my birth work. When I tell moms that labor has a voice of its own, it has a language of its own. And if we allow those voices inside our heads to speak, then we learn how to listen to them. And it's been the greatest tool that's probably been spoken in my entire life. The work that Debbie does is amazingly powerful. I don't know anyone else who does it the way Debbie does it. I mean, I tell my clients, I'm certified in the work, but there's no reason for me to do that because Debbie is truly the master alchemist. And even though I can utilize the tools in our work together, Debbie is the healer for that type work. And I'm grateful she's here in Atlanta. Honestly, I was at a birth in Malawi and we called Debbie.
Where that is.
Malawi, South Africa.
Okay.
In Southern Africa.
And she had the baby the next day, I believe.
Yes.
Right? Wow.
We did a session with a post with one of my teachers. I do Watsu in Florida. We did a session in Alaska over the telephone.
Incredible.
This powerful. I could do it, but there's no reason for me to do it because Debbie's work is so amazing.
I
So
want to just go on for another half hour, but they're going to cut us off.
I know we've
All
gone
right.
way up. I'm going to add just one thing about, because we talked about boys should be able to cry. We also say girls should be able to get angry. So I'm glad you brought that up before you were on. We were talking about emotions, and we have to have access to all of them. There's no bad emotions if they're not hurting anybody.
100%.
We don't want to be hurting anybody, but the emotion itself is okay. To
Yeah.
cry, to get angry, we need to get it out.
Yep.
I call it the emotional bucket, and it's just going to keep filling up unless you let some of it out, because you got to let the good stuff back in. I want to tell everybody the website, gobeyondbeliefs.com. Gobeyondbeliefs.com. Debbie, great having you on. Sherry, thanks for joining us and all your insight and honesty and transparency about everything. Wow, good stuff today. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
I don't even know I don't know how to end. I want to begin again. We don't have any time.
I know it went fast.
It went fast. Yeah. Looking forward next time we get together. Thank you so much, both of you.
All right.
Sherry.
Take care.
All right. We'll be right
Bye,
back.
Steve.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.